We're all here, we're all present, we're all correct. Hi, my name is Paul Grogan from the board gaming YouTube channel Gaming Rules. You may remember me from such videos as How to Play Gloomhaven and 101 Uses for a Dead Meeple. Today I'm interviewing the team behind the Detective Society, a series of play-at-home immersive mystery puzzles. So say hello to Tristan, Joe and Dan.
Hello.
Hi.
Now, the first question is, what is the Detective Society?
Well, thanks, Paul. Yeah, so it's exactly what you say. It's immersive, play-at-home mystery puzzle games. So Tristan, you've got a box. So players will get a box much like this that arrives through their door each month, and it's filled up with evidence, documents, business cards, letters, all sorts of bits and bobs pertaining to a case that we've invented. Players have to work through that, solve the puzzles, unravel the mystery, work out who's the bad guy, and crack the case, basically.
Okay, so whose idea was this of the three of you?
Well, me and Tristan have been working in escape games for many years when we came up with the idea, and we just launched a successful project together. And we saw a gap in the UK market for play at home puzzle box type venture. And well, we've always loved immersive theatre and escape games, and we thought, why not give it a go?
Okay,
we've got the experience and the know-it-all to go for it. So yeah, we hatched the plan in a Costa coffee on a very rainy day. And yeah, we're now a year and a half on. So
right.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, because series one of the games, these games are released in series, aren't they? And there's like, is this the 6 episodes in a series?
Yeah, so it's we call them adventures. Yeah, so that we've got 3 adventures for sale at the moment, and each adventure consists of 6 individual episodes.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, and the first adventure was released during the first lockdown period of the coronavirus pandemic. Did you come up with the idea for this then because of lockdown, or was you already hatching the idea beforehand?
So Joe and I had wanted to do this for a long time. We'd actually already created a game that we were putting into pubs around London.
Okay.
So you'd have a pint, you'd solve some puzzles, you'd just generally have a nice time. But obviously all the pubs closed, and we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to branch out into play-at-home games, which is probably something that we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do for, a year or two had it not been for the pandemic. So it certainly sped things up. But
right.
But yeah, we were already planning it beforehand.
So okay, just tell us a little bit about how you all met.
So I met Dan when I was at university, so that's about 12 years ago. Wow.
Wow.
Now, and we did a drama degree together. And he in the very first play that Dan directed had written something which was very Dan. It was about wizards.
Yeah, got to have a few wizards in there.
Of course.
And I was in that, and from then on we became firm friends. And a few years later I then went to drama school, which is where I met Joe. And then I introduced Dan to Joe because I thought they'd probably get on well, because they are very similar people. And yeah, the rest is history.
Right. Okay. Can you now tell us a little bit about the role that each of you plays within the team?
Sure. So I'm mainly in charge of puzzle design, but obviously me and Tristan work very closely together because we like our games to the plot to be influenced by the puzzles and the puzzles to be influenced by the plot. So there's no real arbitrary puzzles. Each puzzle moves the plot on, and in turn each piece of plot leads to each puzzle. So yeah, me and Tristan work very closely to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah, so as Joe alluded to, I oversee the narrative side of it more, although I work very closely with Joe. He pitches in with narrative ideas, I pitch in with puzzle ideas. And then also I bring narrative ideas to Dan, and Dan says whether or not he thinks they're marketable and good. But yeah, I mainly oversee the plot and the writing side of it all.
Okay.
Yeah, so my role really is I run the business. I've had a digital marketing agency that I set up around 2012, 2010. So that's web design, marketing, all that sort of thing. So I'm sort of the business head, the marketing head. And I, obviously with my degree in drama as well, I can kind of pull the different strands together, the narrative of the storyline of each game, and figure out how we're going to make it desirable to our target audience and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Okay. Now, we mentioned earlier on that these puzzles come in adventures, and each adventure is made up of 6 connected a story. It's all one big story within an adventure. At the time of recording this video, people who have bought the game are almost at the end of the 2nd adventure, and the 3rd adventure has launched on Kickstarter, which is the Curse of the, or is it the Cursed Exhibition?
Yes, that's it. The Cursed Exhibition. Yeah.
So
So it's our
3rd one.
It's our 3rd adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it continues on, but you don't have to have played any of the previous adventures to enjoy.
Right. Yeah. So as you say, each adventure is completely separate from the other one, but it is recommended that you don't just dip in and start on like episode 4 of an adventure, because the storyline wouldn't follow. I mean, you could from a puzzle point of view. You don't need to have played all of the previous ones, but if you want to have the full experience, you need to have started at episode 1 of the adventure that you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, we use the analogy of watching an episode of Friends. So if you watch an episode of Friends, you're going to enjoy it just for it being a funny episode to enjoy. But if you want the whole storyline of, Chandler and Monica falling in love and getting married and all that sort of stuff,
spoilers,
then you want to watch it from the beginning and right through to the end. So
yes,
you can play each game individually. But if you want to enjoy the whole story and get the full story, then you'll play episode 1 to episode 6 in order
of that particular adventure.
Of that adventure, yeah.
Yeah.
And each
So
adventure stands alone. Yeah.
I think we really liked the idea that if a couple were playing the whole adventure, then maybe they could invite a couple of people around to dip in, and they could dip into episode 4 and still have a good time, have a nice evening, without having necessarily played the 3 previous episodes. So it's sort of like you can get caught up pretty quick, or your friends can tell you what's happened, and still really enjoy the puzzles in that episode.
Yeah. Okay. So this 3rd adventure, the Cursed Exhibition, what, apart from obviously the storyline being different, is there going to be any big changes to the way that this works compared to the previous 2?
Mechanically, I would say no. We try and keep the consistency of the style of game similar from adventure to adventure, so that we're appealing to our player base. What I will say is on the storyline front, it's the first time we've kind of brought in a bit of a paranormal element, and I won't go into too much detail, but there's certainly hints of something otherworldly going on, and you'll see that in the marketing of the Kickstarter.
Right.
We're really excited about that aspect of it. That's something totally new for us and our players. But also, because it is our 3rd adventure, because we've had really wonderful support from our backers and our previous players and our subscribers and our wonderful customers, we're just basically going to make this one bigger and better than before. So we've got a lot more audio visual content in there, which is obviously one of the pricey bits of making a game. We need to get actors, we need to film stuff, we need to record voiceovers, and players respond really positively, we found, to those funny characters popping up and doing a funny voice about something in the game. So we've got a lot more of that, and we really want to make our 3rd adventure, the Curse Exhibition, feel a lot more cinematic. So that's what we're trying to get in there, and the Kickstarter is really helping us to do that.
Yeah, well, the last Bond film starring Daniel Craig comes out this year, so I think he's free if you want to give him a call.
Yeah, we're waiting to see whether it's any good first, I suppose.
So we mentioned that the 3rd adventure, the Cursed Exhibition, at the time of recording this video, is actually live on Kickstarter. How is the Kickstarter going for you at the moment?
Yeah, it's going great, isn't it? We reached our target in less than an hour, which is fantastic, and we're sort of on track at the moment to beat our previous games Kickstarters. So we're really pleased with how it's going. We're really excited. We've got if you're really interested, we've got a little secret puzzle taking place on the Kickstarter at the moment. The first part of that has been revealed, and more of that will be revealed as the campaign goes on. So that's available to anyone who's backed at any level. Even if you just back £1, you can get access to that little little reveal puzzle.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, as we mentioned, this third adventure, if somebody is interested, they could just back, or they could just buy this one, and they don't need to have played the previous adventures. Are the previous adventures still available from you? Can you still buy them afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. So the previous 2 adventures are still available via our website, and they will be for the foreseeable future. And yeah, you're right. You don't need to have played them, but if you have played them, then you'll have a good idea of the world and what the Detective Society is all about. So they are quite different. So the first series, the Disappearance of Claire McOver, focuses on the missing daughter of a diplomat that you as the detective have to track down. And then our second series, which we've just released the 4th episode of, 5th episode's coming out this month, is called The Sudden Silence of Timothy Lee. And so in that one, a young man's fallen into a mysterious coma. Doctors can't figure out why, and they suspect some sort of foul play. So it's up to you to work out who's responsible for his illness.
Yeah. And although, as you say, all of these adventures are set in the same world, i.e. our world, there's no actual connection between the adventures. You don't need to have played the first one before the second one, and the third one again is a completely separate storyline.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So the Detective Society has its own particular style of both the storyline, the narrative writing, also the puzzles, and also the humor. Can you tell us what were some of the things that influenced you with those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a narrative perspective and from a humor perspective, I think we think humor is quite key to making these games more engaging and more enjoyable. And so we're very influenced by sort of British humor, and we're told that, it's got a very British humor feel to it. So personally, I'm quite influenced by The Office and Peep Show. And then from across the pond in America, we're all big Arrested Development fans. So there's that sort of sense of humor is probably most similar to what runs throughout our games.
Now that sense of humor, as somebody who has played everything that's been released so far, it's done in a way that it doesn't distract you from the actual real thing that's going on, because the real case is quite a serious case. Somebody's been murdered or kidnapped or whatever, and the humor isn't in there in that particular place. But quite often when you're playing these games, you will have like newspaper articles, or you will go to websites which will have lots of information, and there's so much humor buried into those websites that sort of it provides the entertainment without distracting you from the main feel. I'm assuming that was a deliberate design decision to keep those things separate.
Exactly. That's exactly what we wanted to go for. When we describe our games as immersive, that's kind of what we mean. That a player could choose to purely solve the puzzles as quickly as possible and just race against the clock. And if they want to do that, then that's a completely valid way of playing our games. But if they want to get the experience where they want to read everything, research everything, look very deeply into what we create. So we've got a huge amount of websites in addition to the physical material and emails. And if you want to spend the time picking through that, then there are a lot of almost Easter eggs or hidden moments that you can really enjoy as a player if that's what you want to do.
And Joe, from a puzzle perspective, obviously you said that you've done work in escape rooms in the past, but where do you get inspiration for the puzzles?
Yeah, I think a lot comes from obviously video games and escape games themselves. I mean, I've personally played about 100 escape games now. I got into them when I just hit the early days, the heady early days of 2015, and have played a hell of a lot. And I guess you learn from every experience that has puzzles in it, even if they're terrible. In fact, sometimes the bad ones are the best, because you can sort of dissect what went wrong in the design and why you didn't enjoy it, and you can sort of think, well, this is what I would do to maybe improve that, or just chat to your friends. I mean, the best part of puzzle games are sometimes the bits where you chat with your friends about how you hated it. as much as how you loved it. To be honest, that's how conversation is, isn't it? So yeah, I guess a lot of influence comes from escape games themselves, and then just years of playing computer games as a kid.
Right.
I mean, Portal is iconic, isn't it? And that's at the very base of it, a puzzle game. If not even the very base of it, it's unashamedly a puzzle game. And Myst, everything like that was what I was into as a kid. So all of those influences plus physical games.
Yeah, cool. So apart from working together on the Detective Society, you three are all friends, and you do play computer games together, and you also play some board games together. What are some of the computer games and board games that you play?
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that unites us all, is that we're big gamers. I mean, I myself am a big strategy gamer of video games. So we play an awful lot of Civilization. I started with Civilization 2, and we play a lot of Civilization 6 together. We love games like Anno 1800, which is all about resource management and town building and trading and all that sort of stuff. In terms of board games, we've been playing a lot recently of Tapestry. Again, it's sort of civilization building, really, isn't it? In some form. We've been playing Everdell, which again is a kind of a building your own little woodland town. We've been playing that recently. We played Zolkin recently, the Mayan calendar. We like Tropico, which is a PC game where you build your town on a tropical island. Factorio, we spent hundreds of hours in Factorio building conveyor belts and turning resources into finished goods and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, loads of sort of strategy, resource management, building,
economy building.
Stuff.
Yeah,
Economy.
It's interesting because the games that you've mentioned are generally regarded as single player games, but you guys play them together as a group.
Yeah, I suppose. So we try and do a little games night, company games night every Tuesday, and we try and just to keep things exciting, really, we try and play a different game each week, or if we're really into something, we'll carry on something. So Anno, for example, the new one has some great multiplayer mechanics where you've sort of got to trade goods with each other and all that sort of stuff. I suppose it's like a lot of Euro games as well, like board games. We're going to be at UK Games Expo this year, and we'll certainly be trying to play as many new sort of Euro games there as possible, for sure.
Right. So speaking of board games, for fans of traditional board games, what is there in the Detective Society that people are like?
It's a good question. So, I mean, one of the things is that you can play the Detective Society as a solo game, and I think it does work really well as a solo game, as much as there is a really nice social aspect. We've got a lot of board game fans who treat it like a solo experience, and I think there's something really satisfying in working your way through a case. There are games out there like Exit and Unlock series, which have sort of escape room vibe to it. There's a little bit of that in there. And I know you're a big fan, Paul, of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which
absolutely.
is in a similar vein to what we're doing, maybe not mechanically, but certainly in terms of the style and the theme. So there's aspects of that. But I'd ask you, Paul, really, what you think, because you're obviously board game expert. Like, what do you think's in the games that might?
Well, as you say, although I'm seriously into my board games, I also like puzzle games. I'm quite old, and I grew up watching a program on TV called The Adventure Game in like the 1970s or something like that. And ever since then, I have loved puzzle games. You mentioned Myst as a computer game. It's one of my most influential computer games of all time. Absolutely love anything like that. Was always a fan of Sherlock Holmes, so always liked the sort of mystery and everything else. And then my partner, Vicky, she also likes anything to do with mystery or puzzles or anything like that. So when board gaming started to go down this route, as you mentioned, with the games like Exit and Unlock, and there's lots of other ones as well, it's blurring the boundaries. Even if you don't like board games, you might still enjoy this, because it isn't really a board game. It is it is something that you play at home, and it's a mystery puzzle, and you're trying to you're trying to work things out, and you're trying to solve cases and things like that. Don't worry if you don't like board games, then I wouldn't have said it is a board game, but there's definitely a cross section of people who who like board games, who also like things like this.
Mhm.
So, okay, right, let's go to some final questions then. And these might be a little bit silly, so quick fire answers. Your most bizarre and funny murder weapon or means of murder.
Ooh.
Doesn't have to be real. Could just make something up. The silliest way to kill somebody.
I was actually having this conversation a couple of days ago with a friend of mine,
As you do.
and as you do all the time. And it was, I can't remember, it was from a TV program years ago, but someone got sent a letter, and inside that letter was a stamped addressed envelope, and then on the sort of the gum of the envelope was poison. So when they licked the envelope to send it back to the person, they were poisoned, and they were locked in a room, and no one could work out how they were murdered.
Right.
Okay. That's one that stayed with me for years and years.
Next question is, you post some fun pictures of doggos playing your games with you. Which episode would you say is your dog's favorite?
Certainly not the episode with Save the Kittens in. I think the dogs would not enjoy the cats stealing the limelight. But there is an episode in season 1 that has a lot of dogs in it, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think my dog's personal favorite was the one with the paper aeroplane, mainly because he shredded it to bits. To be honest, yeah. Nice playthings for your dogs.
That brings us on to the follow-up question, which is, how do you stop a dog from eating the physical assets of the game, asking for a friend?
The answer is you can't.
No.
The dog's going to eat what the dog's going to eat, I think.
Yeah. Okay, next question. How many people do you have on the team? As it is incredible how much complexity and elements there are to the games. I guess it's just the 3 of you?
Yeah, as Joe said earlier, Joe does the puzzles with Tristan. Tristan does the narrative with Joe. I run the business, but then we do have some other wonderful staff members who help us with some of the manufacturing, but they don't do any of the design side of things. So yeah, it's just us 3 on that front. Yeah.
And I think you've got a really good top quality range of people who test the scenarios as well. But again, they shouldn't be given any credit whatsoever.
Fantastic play testers, of course.
So how long does it take you to design each episode and therefore each adventure?
So we actually pre-plan the next season quite far in advance. So we had the idea for the Cursed exhibition, which is the current one on Kickstarter. We had the idea for that several months ago, and we've been sort of planning roughly the storyline and how that's going to work. The individual puzzles and the intricacies, we don't actually do that until nearer the time, purely because we're trying to create a new game every month. So we will do that usually a month or 2 before. We're always working a few months ahead.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, in terms of how long, a few weeks to actually create the content of the box, but it would have had several months worth of planning involved.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when people are getting an episode in the post, you haven't just finished it the week before, you finished it quite a way before that, because, you know, as we mentioned, you then have to send it to the people who test it, then you've got to take on the feedback from them, then you've got to do a new version which gets tested as well, and you're doing all of that, and you're not just doing one episode at a time, because you're doing that for the previous one whilst you're also writing the next one, whilst you're also thinking of things for the one after that.
And then we've got manufacturing as well, which we need to wait for the items to arrive and things like that. So lots and lots of planning, lots of spreadsheets, lots of post-it notes.
Last couple of questions. What's the best takeaway to accompany each of your games?
Excellent question. So for season 2, quite a lot of it happens in Japan. So I would say maybe some Japanese food for season 2. For the Disappearance of Claire McOver, our first adventure, a lot of it is focused on the fictional country of Mulvaria. So I guess Mulvarian food, which everyone obviously knows what that is.
Oh yeah. I think you can get Mulvarian food at our local Tesco now. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's all in the world food aisle.
So just to recap, the Detective Society Adventure 3, which is the Cursed exhibition, is on Kickstarter right now at the time we're recording this video. But obviously, that's how long has it got left to run?
It's about 20 days, something like that.
Right. Okay.
It finishes at the start of June.
Yeah. But people can find out more at your website, which is thedetectivesociety.com.
Yep, so you'll see all our ventures on there, as well as a link to the Kickstarter. You can read up about the different games available, the different pricing options, any news, links to our social channels, join the Detective Society group on Facebook, all that sort of stuff, if you want to find out more, for sure.
Yeah. And although you are all based in the UK, these products are available to other countries as well.
Yep, worldwide shipping is available.
Mhm.
And yeah, we do have a lot of backers from the US, for example.
Right.
So we know that's a big. If you're in the US and you're interested, absolutely, there's no reason why you can't get our games, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Right. Okay. Well, we'll wrap things up. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Lovely to speak to you.
Yeah. Good to speak to you, and I'll see you all soon.